Revealed. The Maid's daughter discovers a life-changing secret about the billionaire's fiancé. In a small American town alive with excitement, Darlene stood at the center of a whirlwind. The annual fundraiser for veterans was only days away, and the community center buzzed like a beehive. As she organized tables and sorted donations, her heart raced with hope. It was her chance to honor her father, lost years ago in service, and raise money for those who fought alongside him. This was not just a charity event. It was a bright chance to forge a pathway from her modest life to something greater, but doubts crept in like shadows. She and her mother, a humble maid, lived paycheck to paycheck, with dreams often buried under the weight of finances. Darlene embraced such struggles, for they had taught her resilience. She perfected every school project, aced her tests, and filled her time with volunteering. The determination ran in her blood, alongside the love for her father. Every smile from a veteran at the fundraiser reminded her of him, igniting a fire within her. Just as her spirit soared, she stumbled onto something unexpected. It turned out her mother was cleaning for the town's wealthiest family, the Graysons. And soon after, she crossed paths with their stunning fiancée, Victoria. Confidence dripped from Victoria's smile, a stark contrast to Darlene's modest life. Yet, in that moment, when their eyes met, there was an undeniable spark. "You're Darlene, right?" Victoria said, her voice warm and inviting. In that split second, they shared a world beyond class, a world of perseverance and family loyalty. Darlene felt a shiver of possibility. Maybe, just maybe, their paths could intertwine. But as Darlene deepened this newfound friendship, an unexpected revelation shattered her illusion. An accidental overheard conversation revealed that Victoria, too, was bound by the weight of expectation, pressed to maintain a facade of perfection while struggling with a family secret that gnawed at her heart. The uniting thread was not just their struggles, but an unspoken fear of losing themselves to societal demands. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Standing in the quiet moment of that realization, Darlene's heart raced. The social divide they both navigated was daunting, full of prejudice and ambition. The shadows of doubt whispered in her ear. If she stood with Victoria, could she ignore the truth? Could she accept friendship that was tainted by the very class battle she'd always faced? As the fundraiser drew closer, the stakes grew higher. Darlene struggled to reconcile the bond she cherished with the hidden revelations she feared. Each day pushed her closer to a reckoning, one that would force her to either stand firm for justice or allow her growing ambition to tear them apart. What would it mean to confront the uncomfortable truths? Among the bustling preparations, insecurity gnawed at her. Would Darlene have the courage to act, or would their bond dissolve, leaving behind nothing but the remnants of lost hope? The clock ticked down, and with it, the answers lingered just beyond the fragile veil of their friendship. Darlene stood outside the community center, her nerves humming, a kaleidoscope of emotions swirling within her. The sun hung low in the sky, casting an amber glow over the parking lot filled with cars, each another reminder of the worlds that felt so near, yet impossibly distant. The fundraiser was just hours away, and she could feel the weight of it all pressing down on her. Inside, tables groaned under the weight of donated items, silent auction treasures, baked goods crafted with love, and mementos steeped in the pride of service. Darlene glanced at her reflection in the glass doors, taking a moment to steady herself. She wanted to be brave, but doubts still whispered like leaves rustling in the wind. As she entered, the lively chatter wrapped around her like a warm blanket. Familiar faces greeted her with smiles, veterans who had shared stories, tears, and memories over the years. They were the reason she poured her heart into this event. The reason she yearned to rise above the constraints of her life now. Darlene, a voice lifted over the noise. It was Mr. Grayson, the head of the family her mother worked for. His presence loomed, powerful and intimidating. A hint of pride mixed with discomfort rolled through her as they locked eyes. "Mr. Grayson," she replied, keeping her tone steady despite the sudden flutter in her stomach. "Your mother has been telling me about your plans for this event. It's truly commendable." His compliment sent a rush of warmth through her, but on the heels of it came the nagging shadow of discomfort. How would he react if he knew the connection she had formed with Victoria? "Thank you, sir. It's important to me," she replied, her voice small yet firm. As he moved along, Darlene exhaled, pushing the doubt to the back of her mind. She began setting up the items for auction, each one a potential lifeline for the veterans in need. Hours passed, and excitement filled the air as guests began to arrive, dressed to impress in a blend of luxury and humility. The contrasts were evident. Women in elegant gowns, men in tailored suits stood alongside local business owners in more casual attire. Darlene felt the stirrings of something potent, a sense of belonging, threaded through the chaos of class differences, and then she saw Victoria. Darlene's heart skipped as she approached. The stunning woman radiated poise and grace, her smile brightening the dimmed hall. As she closed the distance between them, Darlene's throat tightened. What would she say? "Looks beautiful, doesn't it?" Victoria gestured to the vibrant decorations, her voice filled with genuine warmth. "Yes, it really does." Darlene offered a tentative smile, but within her surged the knowledge of hidden secrets. Could she trust Victoria, knowing the weight of expectation that surrounded her? "Darlene," Victoria said, a note of vulnerability threading through her confident stance. "I want to talk about what we shared, but later, okay?" Darlene nodded, understanding the fragile balance they were trying to navigate. "Of course," she murmured, feeling a mix of anticipation and dread. As the evening unfolded, the room buzzed with laughter and camaraderie, yet shadows lingered in Darlene's mind. Would their shared moments of honesty come to fruition? The longer they postponed proving their bond, the more uncertain she felt. Just as she thought the tension might lift, the announcement of the evening's main event echoed through the hall, calling everyone's attention to the stage. And with it, the stakes were raised. The truth about both their lives sat heavy in the air, waiting to be unraveled. Would the coming revelations bring them closer or pull them apart, shattering the fragile connection they had built? Darlene's heart raced again, the answer hanging just out of reach, tantalizingly close yet veiled in complexity. As the lights dimmed for the start of the auction, Darlene took a deep breath, her spirit entwined with anticipation and fear. What awaited them in the shadows? The spotlight hit the stage, casting a bright glow over the host, a well-known local figure whose booming voice filled the room, cutting through Darlene's swirling thoughts like a hot knife through butter. "Welcome, everyone, to our annual fundraiser. Tonight, we celebrate our veterans and their unwavering courage." Darlene swallowed hard, but with every word from the host, she felt her resolve hardening. She had put so much work into this night, and she wouldn't let doubts unravel it. A soft touch on her arm pulled her from her thoughts. It was Victoria, standing close. The warmth of her presence sent a jolt through Darlene. "The first auction item is about to go up," Victoria said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Right," Darlene replied, her voice barely above a whisper. But beneath her calm facade, nerves fizzed like electricity. As the bidding began, Darlene watched guests raise their paddles with enthusiasm, their laughter and shouts creating a vibrancy that wrapped around her. Each donation was a step closer to providing support for the veterans. But all the while, Darlene's mind raced with questions weighed down by a heavy heart. "Are you okay?" Victoria leaned closer, her voice low and tinged with concern. "Yeah, just a lot on my mind." Darlene forced a smile, hoping to mask the turmoil within. "Do you want me to help with anything?" Victoria offered, her tone sincere. "No, it's fine. I've got it." Darlene felt a surge of gratitude, but also fear. What if Victoria discovered she was keeping a secret too? As the auction continued, moments of connection between the two women flickered like candlelight. Each glance exchanged felt loaded, pulsing with unspoken words. Darlene was caught between wanting to draw closer and the fear that their truths might shatter the fragile trust they'd begun to build. Finally, just as a particularly coveted item, a luxurious getaway package, was being auctioned off, Darlene found her feet moving toward the stage. She couldn't hold back any longer. "Excuse me, everyone," she called out, her voice rising above the crowd. "Thank you all so much for your generosity tonight. It truly means the world to our veterans." Pulses quickened across the audience, their attention drawn to her. She took a breath to steady her nerves. "I promise these funds will directly impact lives in ways you can't imagine." Her own heart raced as she glanced down at the crowd. Those faces, kind and familiar, reminded her why she was there. As the final bids rose and the excitement peaked, Darlene's eyes darted to Victoria, who now stood by the edge of the stage, her expression unreadable. That brief moment of eye contact held a world of meaning, and Darlene's heart skipped. There was something unsaid, something unacknowledged hovering between them, begging to be explored. The auction wrapped up, applause filling the hall, but the air felt electric, thick with unexpressed emotions. As attendees began to mingle again, a wave of determination washed over Darlene. "Victoria," she called, stepping down from the stage. "Can we talk now?" The world around her faded, leaving only the two of them in a bubble of anticipation. "Right here?" Victoria asked, glancing around, her body language betraying a hint of vulnerability. Darlene could sense the delicate balance between curiosity and hesitation. "Yeah," Darlene said, her voice steady. "We need to." But just as their embrace of honesty seemed within reach, a sudden commotion erupted at the entrance of the community center, drawing every eye in the room. Darlene's heart sank as she turned, anxious about the disruption, the looming fear that secrets both theirs and others would soon be surfacing. What awaited her just outside? Would it derail everything she had fought for this night? The questions hung heavy in the air, sharp and foreboding, waiting to pull her down. Darlene's breath caught in her throat as she turned toward the entrance. A figure stood silhouetted against the bright light flooding from outside. Someone unexpected. Her pulse quickened. She barely had a moment to process before the crowd collectively gasped. The newcomer stepped into the room, and recognition sent a shockwave through Darlene. It was Kyle, her estranged brother, and they hadn't spoken in years. His presence felt like a thunderclap, reverberating through the air as whispers ricocheted from guest to guest. Darlene's heart clenched. Why now? Why here? Kyle scanned the room, his expression a mix of apprehension and determination. He looked older, weary, and a long way from the boy who once shared her dreams. In that instant, everything Darlene had worked for felt like it was crumbling around her. All the dedication to the veterans, all the emotional barriers she had built, stood in stark contrast against the turmoil now rising within. Victoria, sensing the shift, grabbed Darlene's arm gently. "Do you want me to stay?" Her voice was a blend of concern and bravery, almost like she sensed the weight of this moment. "Please," Darlene whispered, not trusting herself to face Kyle alone. As Kyle approached, a sense of dread loomed. The noise in the room faded, and all she could hear was the rush of her heartbeat. "Darlene," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "I need to talk to you." "Here?" Darlene shot back, feeling defensive. She didn't want to share this moment, her moment, with anyone but the people who deserved it, the veterans, the donors. "You come in here after all this time, and you want to talk?" Victoria's grip tightened on Darlene's arm, a silent plea to handle this with care. "I know this isn't the time or place," Kyle replied, desperation creeping into his tone, "but it's important. You have to listen." Darlene felt the collective curiosity of the audience pressing in on her. All those expectant faces felt like a spotlight of judgment, pushing her to confront her brother. Her voice was low, edged with both hurt and a hint of anger. You didn't think it was important to reach out when Mom was sick? Please, he implored, swallowing hard. This is about her. There's something you don't know. At that moment, a hush fell over the crowd, the air thick with unspoken tension. Darlene shifted her weight, wrestling with emotions. Memories of their shared laughter were tarnished by years of silence and pain. What would you possibly say that would change anything? I can't explain it all here, but it's about our family. It matters, especially now. For a heartbeat, she hesitated, teetering on the edge of a decision. Was it worth it? Was this the night she wanted to unravel those stitches she had carefully sewn around her heart? The room felt charged, their audience waiting for more than just the chatter of an awkward family reunion. Darlene glanced at Victoria, who nodded slightly, encouraging her to hear him out, but uncertainty clouded Darlene's mind. Fine, she said, her voice clipped. But after this, you're out. No more excuses. Thank you, Kyle breathed, relief flooding his eyes. It'll all make sense soon, I promise. As Kyle launched into his explanation, Darlene felt a tension build, not just in her chest, but in the air around them. Would the truth shatter the small stability she had created? What secret lingered behind Kyle's words, threatening to alter the paths they had each taken? Darlene could only wonder, caught between the weight of the past and the uncertainty of the future, as Victoria's presence offered the only refuge in this storm of revelation. And then the unexpected hit her. What if Kyle's secret intertwined with her own struggles, the very ones she thought were locked away forever? Just as she began to unravel layers of her brother's story, a distant voice rang out, loud and clear, cutting through the crowded space. Darlene, Victoria, you need to see this. But what did that voice mean? What new wave of chaos was heading their way? The tension thickened, and Darlene felt a shiver of fear ripple through her, awaiting whatever storm was yet to come. Darlene's heart raced at the sudden shout, and the room buzzed with hushed whispers. Her eyes darted around, searching the crowd for the source of the urgency. She felt Kyle's presence beside her, an undeniable weight, both reassuring and burdensome. Who was that? She asked, finding it hard to focus on the matter at hand with the chaos about to unfold. I don't know, Kyle replied, his brow furrowing. But we should find out. Against her better judgment, Darlene stepped away from Kyle, pulling Victoria along. They wove through the guests, the air thick with anticipation. The last thing she wanted was to shift focus from her brother, but curiosity gnawed at her insides. It felt like something significant was about to happen, something that could tip their world upside down once more. They pushed through the crowd, moving toward the back of the venue where the voice had echoed. As they reached the edge of the lobby, Billy, one of the event coordinators, stood wide-eyed, breathing heavily. What is going on? Darlene demanded, grazing past the worried onlookers. I don't know how to say this, but so many people are here tonight, and Billy stammered, gesturing wildly. There has been an incident. Darlene's stomach dropped. An incident? What kind of incident? It's Frank, he replied, his voice a mix of disbelief and fear. He collapsed backstage. What? The words slipped from her lips, raw and jagged. Frank was one of the veterans Darlene had come to know intimately during her work and had become a symbol of hope for many. As murmurs spread through the crowd, Darlene's heart began to race even faster. Is he okay? She pressed, feeling the weight of dread settle on her chest. I don't know, Billy replied, wiping his brow. They're trying to help him, but you should go check. It's not good. Before she could process it all, Darlene took off, urgency propelling her forward. Her mind was a whirlpool of thoughts. Was this the moment she feared? The one where everything she fought for began to unravel? Victoria dashed beside her. Darlene, wait. Are you sure you want to do this? Frank needs us, she shouted back, pushing past the last few people blocking her way. Once backstage, the air felt heavy with anticipation. A small group had formed around a figure on the floor, and Darlene could see someone bent over, desperately trying to revive Frank. Her heart thudded painfully. Get out of the way, she cried, rushing forward. In that moment, she felt Kyle's presence behind her, like a shadow she couldn't shake. Her thoughts flickered briefly back to him, to the secret he was supposed to reveal. But now, Frank was the only priority. The crowd behind them buzzed, some shouting for help, others standing frozen in disbelief. Darlene could barely think. All she was aware of was the sickening weight in her stomach and the rising panic that threatened to suffocate her. Suddenly, Frank's eyes flickered open, and Darlene exhaled a breath she didn't know she was holding. Relief was tangible, but it was mixed with fear. What did it mean for the night? How would it affect everyone around them? Just as she began to step closer, she caught a glimpse of Kyle. He was pale, eyes scanning the room, looking for something or someone. Darlene turned back to Frank, feeling the tension still coiling tightly around her heart. But the overwhelming sound of footsteps approached, and everyone's attention shifted as an emergency medical technician stormed into the room. The air crackled with urgency, and Darlene felt an unfamiliar sense of dread creep back. The secrets they held were still lurking, waiting for their moment to explode. What's going to happen now? Darlene wondered, barely able to breathe, as she gripped Victoria's hand tightly. The storm that had promised to break was still brewing, and she couldn't shake the feeling that whatever happened next would change everything. And what about Kyle's revelation? Would it survive in the chaos to come, or would it drown beneath the weight of a crumbling night? As the medic knelt beside Frank, the tension in the room heightened. Darlene's breath hung in her throat. She wanted to rush forward, to touch Frank and comfort him, but the reality of the situation held her in place. The medic's face was grim, his actions swift but measured. "Can any of you tell me what happened?" he asked, scanning the crowd. Billy stepped forward, his voice shaking. "He just collapsed. 1 minute he was fine, the next nothing." The medic nodded, his expression unreadable as he began checking Frank's vitals. Darlene's heart sank. The older man had brought so much light into their lives. Now it felt like that flickering flame might be blown out for good. "Please, Frank, hang in there," Darlene murmured softly, her heart aching. Victoria squeezed her hand tighter, grounding her frantic thoughts. "Is he going to be okay?" "I hope so," Darlene replied, the uncertainty choking her voice. She forced herself to focus on Frank, wishing for a sign that he was going to be all right. Suddenly, Frank's gaze shifted to Darlene, and his lips moved, though no sound escaped. She leaned in closer. "What is it, Frank? Can you hear me?" He blinked, and although fear flickered in his eyes, there was also a determination that ignited a new flame of hope within Darlene. "Tell them to hurry," he rasped, each word a struggle. The medic nodded, adjusting the equipment. "We're on it, Frank. Just hold on a little longer." As the medic continued his work, Darlene felt a surge of energy. She couldn't just stand there, not when Frank needed her spirit. She turned to the crowd, rallying her voice. "Everyone, we need to make room. Let us give them space to work." People started to shuffle back, some whispering reassurances while others wore faces of anxiety. Darlene felt the weight of the moment. It was more than just about Frank. It was about everyone who had looked up to him, everyone who needed him. But her sight caught Kyle again, standing too far off, the shadows of worry gnawing at him. "Kyle!" she shouted, desperation creeping into her tone. "Where are you?" He broke away from the wall he had been leaning against, his frame tense as he moved through the throng. "I'm here," he called back, but his face was pale and distracted, as if he was grappling with more than just the chaotic energy in the room. When he reached Darlene, she could see the inner turmoil crashing like waves within him. "What's wrong?" she asked, trying to tune into his wavelength despite the turmoil surrounding them. He hesitated, glancing at Frank, then back at Darlene. "I have to tell you something, but this isn't the right time." "No, you need to tell me now." The urgency in her voice cut through the noise. "What could be more important than this?" His eyes darted away, filled with dread. "I don't know if you want to hear it after. Is this about Frank? About me?" "Kyle, please." Just then, the medic called for more help. "We need to get him stabilized. Someone bring the stretcher." The crowd gasped. Darlene's heart dropped again. "Stay here," she ordered Kyle. "I'll be right back." She pushed toward the medic, determination surging in her veins. Frank was fighting, and so should she. But as she reached the medic, she felt a hand on her shoulder. Kyle S. "Darlene," he said, his voice low, "I can't lose you to this. Not to anything. I can't hold back anymore." Before she could process his words, the medic tensed, a stillness falling across the room. "We need more help. Now." In that moment, Darlene realized the weight of the secrets they both carried. Could any truth survive the unfolding chaos? She spun back to Kyle, ready to demand answers. But as different voices crashed around them, she knew the night was far from over. The storm was just beginning. And as she looked into Kyle's worried eyes, the question hung heavy between them. Would their revelation survive the darkness that loomed ahead, or would the shadows swallow them whole? Darlene's heart pounded in her chest, the urgency of the moment consuming her. She felt as though the air around them had thickened, trapping their unspoken words between them. Frank's life hung in the balance, and yet here they were, tangled in emotions that had been held back for far too long. "Darlene," the medic's voice cut through the chaos. "I need you to step back. We have to focus on Frank." She nodded, finally pulling herself away from Kyle's gaze. But his words lingered like a ghost in her mind. What could he possibly need to tell her? Was it something truly important, or just a distraction from the reality crashing down around them? As she stepped back, she caught a glimpse of Frank's frail form. The medic worked methodically, his hands moving with the precision of someone who had done this countless times before. A frail ray of hope flickered. He was still with them. But for how long? The crowd swirled like a storm, murmurs of concern intertwining with more urgent calls for help. She felt overwhelmed by the sheer mass of people, their faces etched with worry, frustration, and fear. Darlene clasped her hands in front of her in an attempt to feel grounded in a sinking sea. Billy was at her side again. "What do you think is happening?" he asked, his eyes darting to Frank. "I don't know," she admitted, each word a struggle as she swallowed the fear rising in her throat. "But we have to stay strong, right?" He nodded, though the tremor in his voice betrayed his own uncertainty. "Look," Victoria gasped, pointing down. "I think he's trying to say something." Darlene leaned in, straining to hear Frank's quiet voice. Don't worry," he struggled, each word a painful endeavor. His eyes drifted closed, and Darlene's breath hitched. "Frank!" she cried out. The crowd held its breath, the weight of uncertainty tightening around them like a vice. Then, something shifted in Frank's face. A soft smile flashed across his lips, as if he could sense their fears melting in response to his will. "Love always wins," he managed, his voice barely a whisper. Tears brimmed in Darlene's eyes. Love wasn't going to be enough this time. They needed action. They needed hope to pull Frank back from the edge. But that moment of levity broke like glass with the arrival of the stretcher. Two paramedics rushed in, their demeanor urgent but calm. "Clear a path," one called out, and Darlene instinctively blocked Kyle from moving closer. "I can't," he murmured at her side. "I can't just stand here and do nothing. Kyle, please." Her voice was barely a whisper, a plea to keep him by her side. "I need to tell you," he started again. But before she could respond, the medic waved them back. "No arguing." He shot Kyle a look. "We have work to do." And just like that, the focus shifted. They were back to Frank, struggling against his own body. Darlene took a breath, trying to remain calm amidst the swirling chaos. But something was still lingering. What had Kyle been about to reveal? Darlene wanted answers, but there was no time to dwell. The stretcher bumped against Frank's side as they lifted him, and the room erupted into anxious whispers. "Please, Frank," Darlene said softly but loud enough for everyone to hear. "Fight. You have so much left to give." As they wheeled him away, Darlene felt Kyle's hand slip into hers, intertwining their fingers. "I can't hide it any longer," he said, his eyes desperate. Darlene's heart thudded wildly. She looked back towards the direction Frank was taken, filled with helplessness and fear. "Then tell me," she urged. But just then the lights flickered. A harsh sound echoed in the room, and the medic, attention suddenly divided, cried out, "We need to stabilize him now." As panic crept back in, Darlene turned to Kyle, his expression a blend of fear and determination. The question still loomed there, heavy between them. Would they find the words that could save Frank, or would time and truth slip through their fingers like grains of sand? The air vibrated with tension, and in that moment, Darlene wondered could the truth be enough to light the way through the gathering storm? Darlene was caught in a whirlwind of emotions, each second stretching into an eternity. The world outside seemed distant, muted by the panic that enveloped her. Frank's life, once filled with laughter and warmth, now teetered on the edge of something unthinkable. She turned her full focus to Kyle, whose grip tightened on her hand, desperate for connection amidst the chaos. "Darlene, listen to me," he said, urgency mingling with fear in his voice. "I can't wait anymore." Behind them, the paramedics shouted commands, the sound fierce and surreal against the backdrop of Darlene's racing thoughts. Time felt like it was both flying and standing still. "What are you talking about?" she urged, straining to hear over the din. "What is so important that you have to say now?" But Kyle seemed to battle within himself, his face shifting between resolve and apprehension. "I'm scared, but there is something you need to know about Frank, something about me." Darlene could feel the walls closing in, and her mind raced with possibilities. Was there something about Frank that she didn't know? Something that could change everything? The weight of it all pressed against her chest, a stone sinking deeper into turbulent waters. "Just tell me," she implored. "We might not have much time." Kyle swallowed visibly, his eyes flickering with something she couldn't quite define. But just as he opened his mouth, the lights flickered again, plunging the room momentarily into darkness. Darlene's heart raced, panic flaring. She could barely breathe, the air stylistically swirling around her like a claustrophobic mist. "Stay calm." The medic's voice sliced through the air, breaking the spell. The lights returned, but it didn't relieve Darlene. It only heightened her distress. She needed answers, and the moment felt all too fragile. In the distance, a voice cried out, "We're losing him." Her heart dropped at those words. Just then, she felt a gentle pull on her arm. Billy stood close, his expression somber. "Darlene, don't lose hope," he said softly. "He's a fighter. He can make it." But that wasn't enough. They could chant all the words of encouragement they wanted, but they were powerless against the tide of uncertainty. "Do you think he is going to make it?" She found herself asking, vulnerable and desperate. She'd watched Frank go through so much over the years. His laughter was a soundtrack to her life. "To lose him now, no one can say for sure," Billy replied, glancing anxiously at the paramedics. "But we have to believe in what?" She snapped, frustration boiling over. "This isn't just about faith, it's about action. We have to do something." Kyle leaned in closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "Darlene, you need to know that Frank, he cares about you. He has always cared about you." Her heart startled in her chest. She had always felt a bond with Frank, something beyond friendship. But could Kyle really understand the complexity of those feelings? "I can't believe this is the time for this," she whispered back, looking over her shoulder, anxiety lacing her voice. "Frank needs us. But we also have to be honest about our feelings," Kyle insisted, yet his eyes showed a flicker of regret, as if he wished he could retract his words. As the medic shouted for someone to grab a defibrillator, the intensity in the room escalated. Darlene felt the tremors of fear ripple through the crowd. Would they find answers before it was too late? Her gaze darted to where Frank was being stabilized. Images of birthday parties, quiet moments, and shared dreams swirled through her mind. Love, hope, despair. She couldn't let it end like this. "Kyle, no more secrets," she said, tilting her head closer to him. Their eyes locked. "Just tell me what is the truth." He took a deep breath, and again the weight of his passing words felt like a balloon on the verge of bursting. Did he even understand what was at stake? Just then, another loud alarm rang through the air, and Darlene turned, her heart racing. The truth loomed like a shadow, and the chaos around them only amplified her deepest fears. With every heartbeat, she realized when the storm would pass, Would it reveal a heart united or be the end of everything she cherished? Darlene searched Kyle's expression, desperately seeking the clarity that eluded her. The room felt dense, filled with tension that pressed against her chest like a vice. Colorful flashes of hope mixed with a gray fog of despair, swirling in a chaotic dance that threatened to consume her. "I can't," Kyle started, his voice trembling. "I can't hide it anymore." He glanced back to where paramedics surrounded Frank, their faces tight with concentration. Kyle's eyes locked onto Darlene's. "You deserve to know." The words felt heavy as they hung between them. Darlene's heartbeat echoed in her ears. "Just say it. Tell me what is going on." She had cared for Frank in countless moments, thoughtful and tender. But what could Kyle reveal that would change all that? Doubt gnawed at her, even as she clung to Kyle's hand, the only lifeline in a sea of uncertainty. "Frank," Kyle hesitated. "He's in deeper trouble than we thought. It's not just about his accident." The words sliced through the air, making Darlene's stomach turn. "He's involved in something dangerous, something that could change everything for him, for us." Darlene blinked, trying to process the implication. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" The fear that had coiled in her gut twisted tighter, constricting her ability to think. "He got mixed up in some business dealings that turned bad," Kyle whispered. "And it's all connected to people who won't stop until they get what they want." The urgency in his voice sent shivers racing down her spine. "Business dealings? What kind of dealings?" Darlene's voice shook as she wrestled with disbelief. The idea that Frank could be in danger seemed unreal. He thought it was just a simple investment, a way to help some friends, Kyle explained. But now those friends have put him in a position where his life is at stake. "They're not the good guys, Darlene. They want him to pay for their mistakes." A wave of nausea climbed up Darlene's throat as she listened. The shadows under Kyle's eyes revealed his deep concern. "But why didn't he tell me? Why would Frank keep something like that from me?" "Fear. Shame. I don't know," Kyle admitted, frustration rising in his tone. "But you have to understand, if he gets through this, it'll be a fight on all fronts. You need to be ready." Her heart raced as disbelief mingled with an intense sense of protectiveness that surged within her. Frank was not only her friend, but someone she loved deeply. "I have to see him," she declared, determination sharpening her words. "I need to know he's okay. I can't just sit here." Before Kyle could respond, Darlene broke away, weaving her way through the crowd towards Frank. The frenzied energy crackled in the air, sharp as the moment of truth was edging closer. The distress of the paramedics only heightened her panic, and every step felt like it was drawing her closer to an inevitable confrontation. "Darlene," Billy called out, trying to keep pace with her frantic strides. "Wait." But she couldn't wait. She had to reach him. Each heartbeat screamed at her to hurry. Would Frank recognize how deep her feelings ran? Would he even make it back to her? When she reached the edge of the chaos, the world around her blurred. As she came into view of Frank, her breath caught. He lay pale and still among the frantic movement, the heartbeat of hope feeling dangerously muted. Could this moment change everything? Or had the collapse started even before the sirens blared? Heavy with anticipation, Darlene closed the distance. What awaited her on the precipice of fear could shatter everything she knew. And just as she prepared to speak, a chill settled over the room as new voices pierced the air, unexpected, threatening. The tension in the room was suffocating, each second stretching like taffy, pulling Darlene further into dread. As she approached Frank, the cacophony of voices blurred into a heavy hum, drowned out by the pounding of her heart. Time felt like quicksand beneath her feet, and fleeting glances toward Kyle showed him locked in turmoil, grappling with words unspoken. But for Darlene, the moment was clear. She had to get to Frank. As she reached him, her breath hitched in her throat. The sight of him pale, his eyes fluttering between consciousness and shadows, shattered her. She knelt beside him, grasping his hand tightly, hoping the warmth of her touch could pierce through the haze of fear. "Frank," she breathed, her voice trembling. "I'm right here. You're not alone. Fight for us. Fight for your life." Frank's eyes opened, and a flicker of recognition sparked within them. "Darlene?" he whispered, his voice ragged but hopeful. The connection sparked between them, and she could feel a small surge of strength emanating from that mere moment of acknowledgement. "Yes, I'm here," she urged, squeezing his rough hand. "You need to hang on, please. You have so much more to give. Remember all those stories you told me? About bravery, about hope? You taught me to be strong. Now I need you to be strong for me." In the depths of her own turmoil, she felt a flame ignite. Her love for him surged, intertwining with her determination. Yet a hush fell over the crowd as a figure moved toward them, shadowed and imposing. Darlene looked up, her heart plummeting as she recognized the suit Greg, one of the supposed friends Kyle had mentioned, his expression dark and menacing. The gentle hum of panic rose again as people stepped back, sensing the shift. "Time is up, Frank," Greg announced, his voice dripping with malice. "You owe us, and the reckoning comes tonight." The words landed heavy, a thunderous declaration of danger that sent shivers through Darlene's spine. "Get away from him!" Darlene shouted, rising to her feet, her instincts surging. The air turned electric, filled with fear and uncertainty. "You can't do this. He has fighting for his life. He deserves that chance." "But you see, it's not just about what he deserves," Greg replied coolly. "It's about what he owes us, and you, darling, are not going to stand between him and his fate." Darlene felt the ground shake beneath her, but she refused to back down. She glanced at Kyle, whose face was a mixture of fear and resolve. "This ends now," he said, stepping forward, muscles coiling with determination. "If we have to fight for him, then we will." "Rising up for love?" Greg sneered. "How quaint. But you should know better than to meddle in things you don't understand." Tension whispered through the crowd as they braced for conflict. Darlene felt her heart race. They couldn't let Greg's power loom over Frank any longer. As the medic tightened his grip around the defibrillator, she seized the moment. "Frank!" she shouted, needing to reach him through this chaos. "You're stronger than this. You are a beacon of hope. Show us your light." Frank's eyes focused, determination swirling within the pain that etched his face. "I will," he rasped, and with that, Darlene felt an unbreakable thread of strength form. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, she took a position beside Kyle, her spirit ignited. "We'll fight for you, Frank. We won't let them take your life. We'll push back. Together." Darlene turned back to face Greg, her heart a drum in her chest. "You might try to snuff out his light, but love is more powerful than your threats." The crowd rallied, the tension shattering as a chorus of voices unified, bolstered by the bond shared through struggle and hope. They would protect Frank, and together they would break the grip of fear that had wrapped around them. In that weighty silence before the storm erupted, Kyle stepped closer to Darlene, determination etched across his face. "How do we turn this?" he asked, urgency ringing in his voice. Darlene didn't hesitate, drawing upon all the love she felt for Frank, for her community. "We stand. Together, united. We've got his back. No more secrets, only truth and strength." As the emphasis on unity surged through them, Greg began to back away, for he didn't expect a fight where hope twinkled bright amidst turmoil. The paramedics pushed forward, revitalizing Frank with light, the emergency pulsing with life, transforming the room into a beacon of resilience. In that moment, the tide turned. The crowd roared behind them, emboldened by the spirit of camaraderie and love of force like no other, shaking off the chains of fear. Darlene turned back to Frank. She could see the flames of his strength rising. "This is just the beginning, Frank," she whispered fiercely. "You're going to come back to us. We'll lean on each other. We'll fight together." Gradually, illuminated by an inner light, Frank's eyes sparked anew. "Always for you all," he whispered, the corner of his mouth twitching into a smile. The chaos calmed. Darlene knew they would move forward, hearts united against the darkness, ready to face whatever storm lay ahead. The moment became a reckoning, a celebration of resilience where love truly transcended all boundaries. They had chosen to stand side by side, unyielding, a bond forged in the fire of hardship, pulling them closer toward forever. And right there, standing strong in the warmth of their shared victory, they felt the power of unity ebb and flow, a promise of hope, laughter, and dreams yet to be realized. Emboldened, Darlene could almost hear Frank's voice, steady and reassuring. Together, we are unstoppable. And they would be, for the light of love had ignited brighter than ever. Now, as you've journeyed through this emotional roller coaster, you have to show your support. Subscribe immediately. This is the moment to hit that like button to feed the algorithm and keep this story alive. Don't wait, not even one more second, to share this video with at least 5 friends who also need to feel the power of transformation and hope. Comment below your feelings about this ending, because your voice matters. Let's keep building this community together.